Right, well, earlier in the show, I asked people to phone up and to tell me what was going on in their lives right now. And on the line, we have a regular caller to the show. It's John from Basingstoke. Are you there, John?
Hello, yes, Mark. John from Basingstoke. John Ashe, with an E, from Basingstoke, calling in. Looking forward to a great conversation with you again today, Mark.
That's fantastic, John. Well, lovely to hear from you, as always. What have you called in to talk about today, John?
Television set.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Television programmes or television sets?
Television set and aerials, the combination of the two.
Oh, okay. What's the problem with your aerial then, John? Have you got transmission problems?
Yes, transmission problems. And I do think to myself, well, we're living now in the 21st century.
Uh-huh.
And you would think that there wouldn't be transmission problems now, wouldn't you? You know, you think that you could develop aerials that were such that they were so good, they were so technologically advanced that you wouldn't get this sort of strange pixelation business you get from time to time on television.
Oh, right.
I mean, most of the time, our television is fine. In fact, we've got two televisions.
Okay.
The one upstairs is a little bit iffy. Well, not the television itself, but the reception is a little bit iffy.
Okay.
Downstairs in the lounge, great stuff. Except for occasionally, it sort of pixelates out, and you lose the middle of a film. And especially in, yes, that's right. And all these funny sort of lines go across, and people start like that.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do indeed.
And I run outside, and the aerial looks fine.
Yep.
Nothing seems to, no.
Can't see any problems. Can't see any transmission problems.
No, I can't see any problems with the coaxial in the back or whatever. And you think, and of course the answer is, oh, well, it's atmospheric conditions. Well, now hold on. You can't tell me that people who are involved in science, and I've told you that I have a background in science, haven't I, Mark?
You have mentioned that, yes.
And my quantity surveying career. Yes, well, I'll just continue my sentence there.
Yeah.
You'd have to ask yourself, now, people who have a lot of knowledge of the sciences, surely there must be somebody amongst that cohort of individuals who could have developed the aerial that wouldn't be quite so susceptible to environmental conditions.
Yeah.
I mean, in the 21st century, this is my point.
Well, John, do you happen to know where your transmitter is? It transmits the signal? Is it a long way away?
It's on top of the roof. That's where we had it installed.
No, sorry. The transmitter that actually sends out the frequency. You don't know where that is. Is it in Basingstoke or is it further afield?
We're in Basingstoke. Yes. No. The aerial that's sort of on top of our roof is the receiver. It doesn't transmit anything.
Right. No. Okay. Look. Let's try another tack.
Hold on. You mean? Sorry. I was fixated upon the aerial on top. You mean where the signal's coming from? The transmitter.
Yeah.
No, I've got no idea.
Right. What sort of films were you trying to watch? So presumably, has this happened recently? You were in the middle of a film and then it all went like that in the middle?
Yes, fairly recently. That's right. So I wouldn't want to give the impression to your listeners or would be that it's only happened just recently. It happens periodically.
Right.
But the strange thing is, it does tend to happen during films that I particularly want to see, which is really annoying.
Yeah.
Now, I suppose one could say, well, you just notice it at those times and it annoys you particularly, and then you say to yourself, I really wanted to watch that film, so you're left with the impression that that's what happened. No. I'm thinking, I really want to watch this film. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if this goes wrong, and, normally it does. I could plot it on a graph, and the more I want to watch the film, the more likely it is that this is going to happen. Now, you'd say that's not scientific, but the plotting of the graph is. Now, I have no explanation for it. No, I don't know what the explanation is, but it's a phenomenon.
Does it happen in inclement weather, if it's raining, or if it's particularly thundery, or what? Does that affect it at all?
That's an extremely good question. Of course, as a scientific individual, I have asked that question myself, and so let me pat you on the back for thinking in a very similar way. Yes, I've asked that question. I can find no pattern at all.
Sunspots?
Which also makes me think, pardon?
Sunspots?
What about them?
I mean, they're supposed to cause interference, aren't they? Sunspots, solar flares and all that.
Yeah, but they do tend, it's no longer, they don't change from one week to the next, do they? You're told that, this year we have more sunspots than the previous year, that kind of thing. And I've not noticed any pattern like that.
Right, okay. What was the last film you tried to watch unsuccessfully then, John?
It was True Grit with John Wayne.
Oh, right.
And I hadn't seen that for, very, very many years, and I thought, good, I think I'd like to see that again.
Yes.
a bit of a fan of John Wayne. Well, his later films, his earlier ones rather would, but then he developed his own style, and I rather like that all-American gritty style, and, quite really, I'm sure he'd taken to himself too seriously with that. However, no.
Oh, so
it just went all wrong halfway through.
Halfway through True Grit. What was it? Yes. What was happening? Was John Wayne doing some shooting of the Engines, the Red Engines? We're probably not supposed to say that anymore.
I don't remember what was happening because it all pixelated out. I think it was an argument with that teenager who he's having an argument with.
I must admit, John, I haven't watched it. Is it worth watching?
Well, the first half is worth watching, but I can't remember the second half because it's so long ago, and of course it pixelated out, so I didn't get to see it recently.
Oh dear. Do you like westerns?
But yes, the first part. I highly recommend you watch the first part.
I'll just watch the first part then.
Yes, about an hour into it, I would think.
And then I'll just turn it off. Yeah.
Well, it's up to you. That will be identical to my experience. But you'll feel dissatisfied and satisfied. And satisfied in the sense that it's a very good film to watch. Dissatisfied because you don't.
Well, John, I've got your word for it. That's enough for me. What other films have been spoilt by the pixelated effect?
Dog Day Afternoon. Now, that is something that I saw, probably back in the 1970s, I should think.
Right.
And then maybe about, 4 or 5 years ago, because I had this television quite a long time, I thought, there it is. I should be able to relive my experience as a young man watching this film that's based on reality and very, very entertaining, I remember. Got into it. They were just about to, hold up this bank, and then one of them chickened out. And that's right. And they were all being sort of, they were trying to be all tough guys, and of course, as you know, they don't manage it. And they end up being nice to everybody in the bank, and they can't do the job, Anyway, it just got to sort of them pushing people into the corner and this sort of thing, and then it all pixelated out. So. I've had to buy a DVD of it. It's a bit annoying.
How much was the DVD?
Well, it's from a charity shop. It's only 50p, but it's still rather annoying to have to pay 50p. Well, I didn't have to. Well, I did have to because I had to.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to before.
I mean, you've seen it before, so you know how it all ends. It all ends spectacularly badly, doesn't it? So I guess you know how it ends. So
roughly, but I wanted to experience it because I have experienced it again.
Right.
Having watched the DVD that I had to pay for, which didn't cost that much.
No.
Would have done if I hadn't had to buy it.
50p. Did you have to buy two?
Well, yeah.
2 for £1?
Sorry?
2 for £1. Sometimes they're £1 each or 2 for £1. So you might as well get yourself another one.
Well, it's only if you can find something you want to watch.
Did you find something else along with Dog Day Afternoon?
No, unfortunately I didn't.
Okay.
Now, if True Grit had been there, I might have bought it.
Yes. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear about your transmission problems. Has it happened recently, or is it just a thing of the past now, hopefully, now they've got things sorted out?
Well, I haven't watched a lot of television recently. It depends how recent you mean, but I anticipate that it's happening again. But you see, my whole thing about this is science, you see. Yes. I thought that it would be possible to develop some sort of super area. Well, this doesn't happen to.
No.
And I've not heard anything about this. And I just think people are not keeping up,
Yeah. I mean, I suppose if you got it through cables, as it were, or through the internet, as it were, that would be safe, wouldn't it? That would be sort of cables underground and all that. That would be safe from weather.
I suppose it would, but it's sort of giving up on principle.
Right.
I mean, I like the idea. I've always liked it, even from a young man, or even as a child, actually, the idea of a television program being transmitted through air.
Right.
It's remarkable, isn't it? You're at the transmitter, and you could have it on a screen and watch it, and then you're at home watching it, presumably it doesn't pixelate out. You could watch it at home, but you stand out in the middle of a field, and you look at the air in between, because you can't see anything to do with any television program, radio program, but it's there in the air. So absolutely remarkable. And I just think that principle should be kept. All these, these cables and internet connections are all very well.
Right.
All very well. But the idea of this signal, especially this analog, just travelling across the air, wow, it's not digits or anything like that. It's not to be decoded, but somehow the program is actually there, travelling on the very waves,
So you could be standing in a field and the sound of music could be going through you. Julie Andrews could be singing "The Hills Are Alive" through you, through you.
Absolutely.
What a thought.
Well, it must happen every Christmas.
Yeah.
I go for a walk, and during Christmas it must be the case that Julie Andrews is passing through my torso.
Yeah. Right, John. Well, so do you have a record for us to play, perhaps?
Well, I didn't, but I'm wondering now whether might be nice to have the Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music, from the Sound of Music.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll get that for you on the virtual turntable. Lovely. And would you like to give a shout out to anybody?
Well, I don't think so today, actually, because I know that both Maud and Molly have an aversion to the Sound of Music.
Ah, okay.
Simply because it's played so much.
Right.
And they both told me that when they were children, they used to love it, really love it.
Right.
And now they really don't love it because it was on all the time, and their respective aunts always wanted to watch it, and they had to sit through it each Christmas. And now they really don't like it. So I think perhaps
familiarity with Julie Andrews breeds contempt.
Well, yeah, not specific to her, perhaps.
Okay.
No, because, I mean, again, being scientific about this, I've never had an aversion to Christopher Plummer.
Right.
And neither have they, as far as I know.
Okay.
I think, actually, Maud had a bit of a crush on him.
Huh. Okay.
I'll double-check that before I say that.
Yes, yeah,
well,
yeah.
Actually, I've just said it.
Well, you have.
Well, you cut it out. If,
it's
live.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
well, you know, often people say, well, you know, you can't unhear that. Well, I invite listeners to unhear that. If I find out that's not the case, I'll let you know next week.
Okay, John, you do that. All right, well, lovely to speak to you, John. We'll get that on the virtual turntable right away, Sound of Music, and I hope your future watching of television is not affected by atmospheric transmission problems. How's that?
That's wonderful. Thank you for the thought, Mark. Please don't play the whole of the Sound of Music. I think that might take too long. No. As I suggested, The Hills Are Alive.
Yes.
The Sound of Music, which is how the show opens, isn't it? After that.
Yep.
On track. You get orchestral on track.
Yep. Okay. We'll
the bit where the real Julie Andrews, I believe, actually fell over because they were filming from a helicopter, and the wind of the blade knocked her over.
Oh, right.
That's right.
Okay. Gosh,
yeah. Obviously that bit's not in the film, you know, they've cut that out.
Yeah, sounds like Apocalypse Now or something. Right, well, we'll get that on for you, yep.
But that was another one that pixelated out. Yes, that's right. I've still not seen that. Ridiculous.
Oh, well, lovely to speak to you, John, and speak to you next time.
Indeed. Great show, Mark. Nice to be on. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Darren's Valley's radio station.